Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I'm 45 and I can tell you the exact weight of a cast iron skillet when your hands are wet and the lunch rush won't let you breathe. That's the kind of math you learn when your second home is a line cook station and your first home is always one broken freezer away from a crisis. My name is Peter. For the last 14 years I've worked side by side with my father-in-law, Art, to keep a small family restaurant alive on a road where chains multiply like weeds. We're the kind of place that still has a bell on the door and a chalkboard we actually update. Breakfast that sticks to your bones, blue plates at lunch, pie that makes old men talk about their mothers. Art and I split everything the same way we split the grits, even, hot, and right now. He runs the morning, I run the night, we meet in the middle over a pot of coffee that deserves better treatment than we give it. Clara, my wife, grew up in this place. Her handwriting is on laminated menu inserts from when she was 12 and her dad still thought plastic sleeves could save you from grease. She's 40 now, the kind of beautiful that looks like resolve. She can carry 6 plates or 2 secrets, take your pick. We have 2 kids, Max, 16, all angles and caution, and Lily, 12, a walking exclamation point who still hovers in doorways when she wants attention but doesn't want to ask for it. Art and Janice, Clara's parents, live 10 minutes away in a house that smells like pine sol and Sunday roast. There are 2 kinds of drama in a restaurant. The kind where the fryer dies and you find out who you are, and the kind that lives outside the kitchen but follows you inside anyway. We always joke that if something was going to break us, it would be the walk-in, not the people. Turned out we were wrong. I'll tell you the day the fuse blew. It was a Thursday in late August. The heat index could have cooked a burger on the hood of my truck, and the air conditioner in the dining room was making noises like it was composing its will. The lunch rush had been messy, tourists who want the kind of service only their mothers gave them, regulars who tip in quarters, a little league team that wanted ketchup for everything including the salad. I was mopping when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again. I answered on the 3rd try, because the universe can be relentless when it has something to say. Peter Collins? A man asked, stumbling a little over the double L like he'd just noticed names have rules. This is Peter, I said, wedging the phone between shoulder and ear while I wrung the mop. This is Mark Hendricks from Hendricks Lowell, Notary Services, he said, cheerful like people get when documents move and money is nearby. I just need to confirm the signatures for the transfer of membership interests per the revised operating agreement. I think you have the wrong guy, I said, mopping the same square I'd already cleaned. Ah, my mistake, he said, a paper shuffle in his voice. This is for Mr. Collins, co-managing member of Red Oak Kitchen LLC, correct? That's me, I said. The room changed temperature. He kept going. Right, so I have Clara Hale as the current member executing a quitclaim. Stop, I said. The mop handle squeaked in my hand. Say that again. Sir? A new tone. Warrior. Say those names again. Hale is transferring her 25% interest to a Mr. Daniel Price, he said, slower now. I'm calling to confirm I have all parties for Monday at 10. Ms. Hale said you'd be present as co-managing member and that your father-in-law, Arthur Hale, would join to confirm the capital accounts. We still need Mr. Price's driver's license. He may bring a passport. Do you have any questions? I had several. None I could ask a man whose job was to witness signatures and not moral collapse. I'll call you back, I said, and hung up. There's a clicking sound the brain makes when your world rearranges itself without permission. I mopped through it. I finished the floor because if you don't finish the floor the night server slips and sues and then you're telling your story to a judge who doesn't care about your metaphors. Then I walked into the office, shut the door, pulled the file box from the shelf where we keep the documents that own our lives, and stared at the operating agreement like it might have sprouted thorns since last I'd held it. Art and I own 40% each. Clara has 25, a gift we made official the year Lily was born, back when we thought gifting pieces of paper would fix the resentment that comes when a daughter grows up and chooses a man and a building over the idea her mother had about destiny. The extra 5% sits in a trust Art made when his knees began to ache in a way that sounded like calendar pages tearing. Clara never asked to sell. She'd been irritated with the place for years, said restaurants are tidal and she wanted to be landlocked for once, 9 to 5, health insurance that doesn't depend on luck, nights that aren't a scheduled adventure. We talked about it. We argued. We made peace with it. What we didn't do was call a notary. Daniel Price is a name out of a credit card commercial. Good hair, borrowed watch, drive-by charisma. He owns the kind of consulting firm that requires a very expensive laptop and an expensive coffee habit. He and Clara had met, at least in my presence, 3 times, once when he pitched us on branded sauce jars, once when he pitched us on a ghost kitchen, and once when he showed up at the bar near closing and ordered a rye like a man who wanted me to notice he knew the difference between cask strength and costume jewelry. He smiles the way a wolf in a bedtime story is supposed to smile. When you're married, your instincts wear the spouse's face. I wanted to call Clara and ask, "What is this?" I wanted to pretend I already knew the answer and that the answer was the notary dialed the wrong man. I wanted to drive to Daniel Price's glass office and knock until the receptionist invented an emergency. Instead I called Art. He picked up on the second ring with the sound of traffic hiding under his hello. "What's up, kid?" he asked. He calls me kid even though I could rent a car in any state without arguing. It's the softest thing he does. "Where are you?" I asked. "Home Depot," he said. The light above table 8 died and I refused to serve Thursday night meatloaf by candlelight again. "Can you come to the office?" I asked. "Now?" He heard the tone under the question. "I'll be there in 10, he said. He was there in 7. He moves faster when the world gets dark. I told him everything. I told him what Hendricks had said, letter for letter. Art stood the way men stand when they've been hit but are in a room with other people and don't have permission to fold. He didn't curse. He didn't rage. He set his hands on the desk and breathed like something he'd been ignoring had asked to be introduced. "She wouldn't," he said softly. "Not without telling me. Not with Price." Then he added, "Because honesty is a lifelong habit with him, or maybe she would. Maybe she already did." Janice, his wife, Clara's mother, has a way of making every conversation end in a tone that is equal parts fragrance counter and traffic court. If there's a scale of mercy, she keeps her foot on the other side. She loves her daughter with the kind of love that looks like pressure when you're standing close. She loves Lily with a ferocity that can frighten, and Max with a tenderness he tries to hide. She tolerates me because Art chose me. That's the order of operations and it has never needed a notary to function. We called Clara at 3, when the afternoon dip usually lets her pick up. She didn't. We texted. We suggested dinner at the restaurant after close, family talk. She said, "Sounds serious?" A sticker of a face sweating and laughing. "I'm at a thing but I'll be there at 8. I wrote back, "Bring your mother." Then, because I'm not a coward and because if you're going to ask for witnesses you should ask for all of them, I wrote, "And bring Daniel." She read it. She didn't answer. At 8:05 the bell jingled and she walked in wearing a red shirt I'd never seen and an apology I recognized. Daniel followed, a half step behind, which is not a posture he's used to. Janice entered with a purse that looked like it contained her childhood. Art came through the kitchen door, wiping his hands because that's how men like us prepare for war. We didn't sit at a table. We stood in a circle between the pie case and the register like a jury that knows the verdict but still wants to hear the closing argument. I put my hands on the counter because wood has been my medicine since my father died and I realized you can sand away a lot of noise if you do it long enough. "What is this?" Art asked, not unkind, not soft. Clara made a face like a teenager. "What is what?" I pulled my phone from my pocket. "Hendricks Lowell," I said. "Monday at 10. A man named Mark who thinks my name is co-managing member. You're 25% to Mr. Price. You told him your father would confirm capital accounts." I was proud of how flat my voice stayed. My rage had moved into my bones and set up scaffolding. "Is there a reason I should be mistaken?" Janice stepped forward before Clara could speak, as if motherhood is a shield you can carry into a gunfight. "We don't need this tone," she said. "Peter, you've been impossible for years. Hard. Stiff. You treat Clara like an employee. You treat this place like a shrine. You've never once asked what she wants." "I'm asking," I said. Clara's eyes were bright in that way that has nothing to do with tears and everything to do with calculation. She looked at Daniel like he might provide a line. He opened his mouth and closed it because he'd left his script in the car. "It's not what you think," she said finally, and watched our faces to see if the incantation still worked. "It's exactly what we think," Art said. "Don't use that sentence in this room." Clara flinched because she doesn't like it when her father raises his voice, which he almost never does. "I was transferring my share," she said, words suddenly efficient. "I'm allowed to. It's in the agreement. I needed liquidity." She lifted her chin. "And I'm leaving." "Leaving what?" I asked, genuinely, because sometimes you need to hear the shape of the loss. "This," she said, gesturing at the room. "You. The schedule. The constant smell of bacon on my skin. The way Mom makes me feel like I owe her my smile." She took a breath like a swimmer. "I was leaving with Daniel." Janice nodded quickly, as if the faster she nodded the more righteous the plan. "He's good for her," she said. "He's got connections. He'll turn this old thing into something modern." "You're selling us," Art said. There was no anger left. Just the math. "You're selling your father to your boyfriend and you were going to let a man with a stamp make it legal." Clara looked as if she wanted to argue with the word boyfriend. She didn't. She looked at me. "Peter, you've been cold for so long," she said, and it was almost tender, the way she reached for the sentence that let her be the protagonist. "You and Dad have this thing that doesn't include me. You don't listen. You don't see me." "I see you," I said. "I've been seeing you since you were 26 and told me the diner needed a better coffee and bought the machine with your tip money. I saw you when you wanted to go to that hospitality conference and I stopped a bathroom renovation to pay for it. I saw you when Lily was 3 and you didn't get out of bed for 5 days because the world stopped making noise and we pretended it was flu so your mother wouldn't say the word she always says. I set my palms flat on the counter to keep from reaching for her. Seeing you doesn't mean I say yes to you breaking your father." Janice made a scoffing sound. "You'll survive," she said. "Men always do." Art put his napkin on the counter like he was finishing dinner. He turned to Janice, and when he spoke, the floor tilted. "You're her mother," he said. "But you don't get to talk about surviving today." He looked at Clara. "You want to know why I can stand here calm?" he asked. "Because I've survived this before. In our house. With your mother." He turned back to Janice. 30 years, Jan. 30 years I protected your name. 30 years I let you be the saint. I'm done." Janice's eyes went wide and flat. She whispered his name like it might call the scene back into the body where she controls it. "Arthur, don't." "I will," he said, and for the first time since I've known him, he didn't care who was watching. "You had a lover. I forgave you because we were young and the kids were small and because I thought if I swallowed the knife the bleeding wouldn't show. I have been carrying it so long my back forgot what straight felt like." Clara stepped back like the air had pushed her. "Mom?" she said, disbelief tipping toward something else. Janice squared her shoulders, which is what she does when the story isn't going to go her way. "I made a mistake," she said quickly, as if the word could fit over the hole. "It was nothing." "It was not nothing," Art said. "It was a season. It was a choice. And it was ours to fix, which we did by pretending it hadn't happened. I live with that pretended thing every day, and I decided that pretending ends tonight." Daniel fidgeted in the way of men who can read a room but not their part in it. "This feels personal," he said, as if it hadn't been personal from the first email. "It is," I told him. "And it's business. And it's family. And you don't get to be in any of those circles anymore." Clara looked at the ceiling like the ceiling might have a different script. "Dad," she said, trying a new door. "We'll make it right. We'll." Art held up a hand, and she stopped because there are a few men left in the world who can stop a fire with that gesture. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the ring of keys we've shared for a decade, the office, the back door, the padlock on the basement, the safe, and set them on the counter in front of me. Then he pulled a folded paper from his wallet, not because this is a movie, but because he's the kind of man who carries formalities within reach. "I had the lawyer draft it when my niece started telling me I was 80, he said. Temporary assignment of my 40% to you in case I ever couldn't run the morning. It's stated and notarized. It's yours now. Art, I said. I didn't want it like this. I wanted it when he was too tired and Lily was 40 and Max had learned to drink coffee without wincing. I wanted it with cake. I wanted it with laughter that didn't need to be brave. He looked at Janice. I won't cover your lie anymore, he said. And I won't watch our daughter repeat it and pretend it's empowerment. Then he looked at Clara. You're my girl, he said, grief carving his voice. I love you. But not like this. Not enough to help you steal from the people who kept your floor under you. What are you doing? Janice demanded, a tremor finally finding its edge. I'm leaving, he said. Not running. Leaving. I'm going to Peter's for a while. I'm going to take Max and Lily until the court sorts this mess out so they don't have to sleep in a house where the alarm is inside their chest. He looked at me for confirmation and I nodded because sometimes you don't need words, you need someone to stand there and catch. Janice sputtered. You can't just. I can, he said. And I am. He turned to Daniel. You should go, he said. There's nothing here for you but paperwork you won't be signing. Daniel looked at Clara. Clara didn't look back. He left. The bell on the door dinged like a punchline. We sat down then, because standing felt like holding your breath. Art wrote a note for the morning staff, closed Friday for family emergency. See you Saturday. Full pay. I toggled the alarm and fought the urge to scrub the prep table until it gleamed. Clara cried, the messy kind that doesn't lend itself to sympathy when you're in the blast radius. Janice stood with her arms crossed so tight she looked like an X. I called Max and Lily and asked them to pack bags, 3 days, school stuff, favorite things. I didn't say why. They know my voice when it's trying to lay down a bridge while the river rises. At the house, Lily asked the question you rehearse for and never answer right. Are you and Mom getting a divorce? I don't know, I said. We're figuring things out. It's not a lie if it's the only true thing you have. Max looked at his grandfather and saw an adult who had moved. You okay? He asked. No, Art said. But I will be. Then he smiled that small square smile of his. What do you want on your pizza? We slept like refugees, kids in the living room, Art in the guest room that isn't really a room, me on the couch with a dog none of us admits his hours wedged against my knees. In the morning I called a lawyer who knows our town's weather, who gets how judges like their ducks lined up and their facts unadorned. He told me we could file to block any transfer until the court reviewed the operating agreement. He told me family court would look at residency and best interests and current stability. He told me to breathe. Lawyers who tell you to breathe are worth their billable minutes. Clara texted at 10, I'm sorry. Then, I hate you. Then, I don't know who I am. Then, can I see the kids? I told her yes, at the park, with Art or me present. Not at Janice's. Not with Daniel. She swore. Then she sent a heart. Trauma makes adults into inconsistent radio stations. At the park, Lily sat on the swings and let her mother push her like she was 5. Max stood and listened with his jaw. Clara promised things she couldn't guarantee, treatment for the parts of her life she'd misnamed, boundaries she'd never believed in, forgiveness she hadn't asked for. Max said, we're okay at Dad's, and I saw the sentence land in Clara's chest where her pride lives. Lily said, I love you, which is the only thing I allow in this mess that isn't bounded by rules. The court issued a temporary restraining order on the transfer. Hendricks Lowell called to apologize for the confusion, the way a GPS apologizes when you drive into a lake. Daniel's texts grew less smooth, this is overreacting. We can do it another way. You're hurting yourself. I blocked him because I prefer my enemies in silence. Janice called and called. When I answered, she was a story with a fuse. How dare you take my grandchildren, she said, forgetting that my is a word you borrow from time to time, not a deed. You don't get to blow up our family. I didn't like this, I said. I'm just moving furniture so the kids don't get crushed when the ceiling goes. You've always been difficult, she said. I'm inflexible about some things, I agreed. Like theft. And lying. And men who say they're co-managing partners when what they mean is I'll nod while my girlfriend burns down the only place that ever fed her. "Don't you dare," she began, but the sentence ran out of road. She hung up. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the nick in the wood where Lily had taken a fork to it when she was 3 and tired. Art settled in like he'd been planning for this nothing and everything for years. He was softer with the kids than he'd been when Clara was their age. He is softer with me than he was when I married his daughter and showed up at the restaurant with a chef's coat and 100 ideas about biscuits. He taught Lily to make pie crust without fear. He taught Max how to fix the toilet flapper without cursing. He sat with me at 11 p.m. when the house was a museum of sleep and said, "I should have told her, years ago. I should have told Clara the truth about us." He ran a hand over his face. I thought it would protect her to think we were spotless. All it did was teach her how to hide. We went back to work on Saturday. We put the sign back to open. The first table in was 3 older women who eat oatmeal with butter and conspiracies. The second was a cop who drinks coffee like a sacrament. People had heard, "Our town is a sieve," and they watched us like a show. We plated pancakes and refilled mugs and the bell kept ringing, and at noon, Janice came in. She didn't sit. She didn't order. She stood at the host stand and announced, in a voice that could slice, "I'm telling everyone what you did." She meant Art. She meant me. She meant Clara. She meant the sky. Art stepped around the counter and stood with his hands folded like a man at the end of a hard day who has patience for one more thing. "You do what you need to do," he said. "I'm done doing this your way." He gestured to the dining room. "If you're going to make a scene, buy a muffin." She left. The room exhaled and then tried to inhale. It's strange to watch other people's marriages at work. That night, Max asked the question kids ask when the chronology of love begins to wobble. "Did you love Mom when you married her?" he said, not looking up from his plate. "I did," I said. "I do. I love the part of her that isn't trying to make the worst parts permanent." He nodded. He speared a green bean like it had been disrespectful. "Will you ever love her like you did?" "I don't know," I said. "Love changes. It's supposed to. It's not supposed to be a stick-up." Lily said, "Grandpa says love is a verb," and Art, cleaning the stove, nodded without turning around because he likes it when his slogans get traction. We went to court 2 weeks later, business first, then family. The business was dry, temporary injunction granted, transfer paused, hearing scheduled, attorneys frowning like they were chewing something that needed salt. The family court was wetter, custody temporary with me pending review, Art named as temporary household support, visitation with Clara set for afternoons in public places, Janice prohibited from disparaging anyone within earshot of the children, which is a sentence that should embarrass a person but often doesn't. When the judge asked if there was anything else, Art raised a careful hand. "I'd like it on the record," he said, "that I am assigning my 40% interest in Red Oak Kitchen LLC to Peter Collins, effective today," and he handed the clerk the paper he'd given me that first night, now steamed straight by a real lawyer who charged us $200 to stamp what was already true. The judge looked over her glasses. "You're sure?" she asked, as if she had time for other people's epiphanies. "I am," he said. "I want my grandchildren to know that a man can tell the truth and then behave like it's true." After, in the hallway, Clara hugged her father. It cracked something in me. "I'm sorry," she said into his shirt. "For all of it." "I know," he said. "You have a lot of days to use that sentence correctly." At home, the kitchen felt smaller in the way spaces get when you're filling them with something heavier than furniture. The kids did homework. Art read the paper like the news could change if he paid enough attention. I stood at the sink and washed plates and thought about the way your life has a before and an after, and the most faithful thing you can do is keep a sponge moving in both. Clara is still leaving. Not with Daniel. With herself. She started seeing a counselor who isn't afraid of nouns like betrayal and addiction and isolation dressed in ambition. She brings Lily coloring books and brings Max an apology in installments. She doesn't come in the restaurant, that's our rule for now. She texts me about braces and permission slips and whether Lily can watch a PG-13 movie that is probably just 12 people texting each other with dramatic lighting. I answer. I keep my answers short and kind, because that's the version of me I want the kids to memorize. Janice has gone quieter. Maybe it's shame. Maybe it's rage learning to whisper. She loves my kids. That's a thing worth naming. She wants to see them. We let her, with boundaries that would make a counselor applaud. She buys Lily sneakers she doesn't need and Max a hoodie that still smells like a store when it comes out of the wash. She doesn't talk to me unless she has to. When she does, it's about weather. It's progress, of a sort. Business is business. Saturday nights are good. Tuesdays are for the brave. We added a chicken pot pie that people cry over without admitting it. Art works mornings 3 days a week and then goes to the park to sit on a bench and watch my kids practice being okay in the sunlight. I own more than half of something I never wanted to inherit under these circumstances. I own the part where the door opens and the bell rings and a new person walks in and you decide to make them a plate like they've always belonged at your table. Some nights I drive the long way home past houses where the lights make squares on the lawn and you can see silhouettes moving in kitchens and I let myself imagine a different movie. Then I pull into my own driveway, and Max is on the porch with his geometry, and Lily is drawing a dog that looks exactly like the one asleep at her feet, and Art is drinking tea like it's a reward, and I think, this is the right film, actually. It's not the one I cast for, but it's the one I'm in, and I can learn my lines. If you ask me how we're doing, I'll tell you the truth the way I've learned to, in small pieces you can swallow without choking. We're okay. The restaurant's open. The coffee's strong. The pie crust is flaky because Lily forbids toughness. Max is learning to drive in the parking lot on Sundays and hasn't hit the dumpster yet. Art laughs more now that he's not spotting lies. Clara is making a life that might someday run parallel to ours without crossing lines it shouldn't. Janice is a woman who has to sit with herself for the first time in decades, and I don't wish that on anyone even as I recognize it as a door. This is the part where I'd like to give you a neat ending. There isn't one. There's a walk-in that still tries to die in July and a payroll that still makes me sweat. There's a court date in spring. There's a notary who will never call me again and a man with a passport who has moved onto a different woman's rooftop. There's a family where the loudest thing is the truth finally being allowed to speak in a normal voice. I keep the keys in my pocket now. They're heavier than they used to be and somehow lighter. When the bell on the door rings in the morning, Art says, "Showtime," the way he always has, and we step into the heat together. We crack eggs. We flip pancakes. We pour coffee for the woman who eats alone and pretends to read the paper. We do the work. It's not heroic. It's breakfast. And somehow that feels like the holiest thing I know. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.